There was a period in my meditation practice where I would force myself to feel grateful and joyful every single day. And I thought I was mastering Joe Dispenza's work until my body completely shut down and I couldn't feel anything at all. And every morning, I remember I would sit there, forcing myself to feel gratitude, forcing myself to feel joy, pushing myself to feel these elevated emotional states. Because, I thought that was what doing the work meant. Feel abundant now. Feel grateful now. Come on, Joy. Come on. Where are you? And after a while, look, for a period of time it worked, but I was actually hitting those elevated emotions. My meditations felt powerful and I was checking all the boxes, right? But a couple of months later, something weird started happening. My body began rejecting these forced emotions. And honestly, I started to feel numb. I would try to feel grateful and nothing. Just this hollow, empty feeling where joy used to be. And this is what I realized about elevated emotions during that time. And I wish someone actually told me this before I emotionally burned myself out. I don't know what it was. It's like something just happened where nothing was there. But forcing positive feelings is just spiritual bypassing in disguise. Okay, I was literally suppressing every authentic emotion because I had been thinking that I was being high vibe when I was literally creating some big manifestation blocks because of spiritual bypassing or emotional bypassing. But it finally clicked when I stopped trying to feel good and started allowing myself to feel real. And that is when everything changed and my manifestations actually started accelerating. So today I want to share exactly what went wrong during that time where I was trying to force my elevated emotions, and why forcing elevated emotions destroys your nervous system, and how to actually embrace emotional authenticity. Yes, even the negative stuff, those became key to effortless manifestation, embracing your negativity. But what I learned the hard way was that your shadow isn't your enemy, isn't the enemy of your light, but it's actually a fuel. And so, oh, by the way, if you would like to join a community of dedicated quantum creators who are there to encourage you and celebrate your wins, support you when you are in that transformation phase or experiencing a dark night of the soul, then come join the Quantum Creator community by following the link in the description. But it all started a couple of years ago, I think about 3 years ago, and my mornings would wake up, I would wash my face, go to the toilet, then straight into meditation. And I would literally force myself into what I thought was elevated emotions, right? So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, I'm so grateful for this beautiful life. I love my life. Everything is amazing. Meanwhile, my life was looking back at me like, bro, are you okay? Is everything all right? Because we aren't matching the same energy. And it was like being that friend who always posts on Instagram like living my best life, right? While they cry in the parking lot. Well, you know that friend, right? We all have that friend. Sometimes we are that friend. But Dr. Joe actually teaches that, and I completely missed this teaching of his. He talks about elevated emotions, but he's not talking about manufacturing fake positivity. He's never said that, right? He's talking about authentic states that arise naturally when we are aligned with our true self. And that difference is massive. It is like the difference between a genuine laugh, a real laugh, and that awkward laugh you do when your boss tells a bad joke, Ha, ha, ha. Good one, boss. Can I please have a raise? So, your boss might not know the difference, but your nervous system knows the difference, okay? Even if your mind doesn't. Even if your mind doesn't know, your nervous system, our body knows. And so I was essentially gaslighting my own emotions. Every time I would feel frustrated, anxious, doubtful, I would be like, no, Grateful. You have to be grateful, right? You have to be grateful. That is not healing. And I wondered why nothing was changing. No wonder I was not healing. Because when you suppress your emotions, you're not transcending them. We are just pushing them deeper into the subconscious. We're disregarding them. We're creating resistance. And that's why I was creating even more resistance in my life. It's similar to holding a ball under the water or under a pool, okay? Eventually it's gonna, bounce back into the surface, explode back into the surface. And when it does, it's gonna hit your face. And that's exactly what happened to me. My body was like, nah, we're not doing this fake shit. Stop faking. Stop it. Like, it just had enough. It just had enough. And I remember one meditation, I was trying to access that grateful feeling of gratitude. And it was like reaching for a light switch that had been disconnected. Nothing. I couldn't feel anything. Just this weird hollow emptiness where emotions used to be. It's like tune in to the frequency of gratitude. Like, okay, any minute now. And it was the strangest thing. I could intellectually understand that I had things to be grateful for, but I couldn't feel it. I'm sitting there like, come on. Emotions. Hello. We need to talk. Hello. You know what I mean? I know I'd been forcing them. I know I'd been forcing elevated emotions, but come on, please. Like, we're in the middle of a meditation. But what the hell was actually happening to me? Well, when you constantly suppress your authentic emotional responses, we are essentially training our nervous system to disconnect from our feeling centers. To disconnect from our feelings. Our brain is like, oh, we're not allowed to feel real emotions anymore? Okay, cool. Let's just shut down that whole department. That's what it's like. So please pay attention to this. It's like having an employee who keeps getting told that their work isn't good enough. So eventually, they just stop trying altogether. Oh, okay, my work sucks, so what the hell is the point? Right? And in case you missed that, the employee is your entire emotional system. And the irony is that in trying to force elevated emotions, I had created the exact opposite. Emotional numbness. I had become a spiritual robot, going through the motions, but feeling nothing authentic. And the worst part was my manifestations, nothing was happening. It stalled. But here's what I didn't understand back then. The universe doesn't respond to fake emotions. It responds to authentic frequency. And my frequency, it was just basically elevator music at that point. Like, not like, you know what I mean? Lifeless. Now listen carefully. The goal isn't to feel good all the time. The goal is to feel real all the time. And I hope that smacked you in the face. I hope it did. Because elevated emotions aren't something we manufacture. They are something that we allow. They arise naturally when we are in alignment with our authentic self. Not when we are performing some emotional theater or something like that. And I know Dr. Joe talks about this concept of authenticity, the emotional authenticity. The idea that your emotions, even the uncomfortable ones, they are just information. They are our internal guidance system trying to tell us something important. And so sometimes we need to listen to that. Well, we need to listen to that. And so when I was forcing gratitude while feeling frustrated about my financial situation, my debt, I was essentially telling my internal guidance system, shut up. I don't want to hear it. You're frustrated right now? You're anxious? Shut up. I don't want to feel that. But that frustration, that was trying to tell me something. Like, dude, maybe you need to take different actions. Something's not working here. Maybe you need to address some limiting beliefs. Maybe it's a behavior needed to change, right? Or simply need to acknowledge that it's okay to feel frustrated sometimes, right? It's like your emotions are trying to have an important conversation with you and you keep interrupting them like, okay, anyway, look, let's talk about how grateful we are. And your emotions are sitting there like, bro, can I finish what I'm trying to say here? Can I finish my sentence? And so when we suppress our emotions, we are not just suppressing the negative ones. You are dampening your entire emotional range. It's like turning down the volume on your emotional stereo system. You know what I mean? Not just the elevated emotions, but every emotion. And so we don't just lose access to our anger, our sadness. You also lose access to authentic joy and love too. And that's why so many people, well, from what I have observed in the spiritual community, they seem flat. They are so afraid of feeling anything negative that they accidentally numb themselves to everything. And that's not a judgment, because that's what I experienced. And so I decided to try something crazy. I just started to allow myself to feel whatever came without immediately, don't feel that, or override it with a positive, a forced positivity. You know what I mean? Fake positivity. No, we're not allowed to feel that. We need to feel gratitude. Like revolutionary concept, right? Like feel your feelings. Like who would have thought? But the first time I did this, it's terrifying. Let me tell you that. I didn't even do a Joe meditation. I just sat there with music on, and instead of trying to force gratitude, I just sat there. I sat with whatever it was. If there was a lot of anxiety about money, some anger about the past betrayal, a decision that I made, whether it was deep sadness, there was a lot of deep sadness within me. Maybe feeling disconnected from myself. I just let it happen. For about 10 minutes, I just let myself feel it without trying to change it. You want to know what happened? These emotions started to move. It's like they weren't stuck anymore because I wasn't trying to suppress them with fake positivity. And Joe talks about this. He calls it like alchemy, right? I call it emotional alchemy. It's the ability to transform those lower frequencies, those survival emotions, and turn them into elevated states, or get them to move. Not by suppressing them, but by fully feeling them and allowing them to complete their cycle. It's like emotional digestion. We can't digest food by pretending we're not hungry. You actually have to eat. You have to chew the food, let your body process it. Guess what? Same with our emotions. And so after I allowed myself to feel that anxiety, that frustration, that anger, something beautiful happened. Genuine gratitude started to arise. Not because I was forcing it, but because I had created space for it by honoring these other emotions first. It was similar to like cleaning a clogged drain, you know what I mean? Once you remove the blockages of a clogged drain, or aka suppressed emotions, then the natural flow of elevated emotions can return, or every single emotion can return. And I remember that the first time I felt authentic joy after this numbness. I was at a park and I saw someone walking their dog, and that dog did this weird thing. It was so ridiculous that it tried to catch its own tail and it fell over. I just started laughing, and I was really laughing, and I realized, my God, I haven't felt genuine joy in months. It was like being able to, taste food again after being sick and your taste bud just stopped working. So once I understand this principle, I developed what I call the authentic elevation process. And it incorporates shadow integration, shadow work into this piece that most people skip. So listen carefully and write this down. Step 1 is what I call emotional check-in. So before trying to access any elevated emotions, like before meditation, just do a full body scan and ask, okay, what's actually happening right now? What is my state of being? Not what I think I should be, not what I want to be, but what's actually present right now. Okay? Step 1. Step 2 is honor and allow. Whatever emotions come up, anxiety, frustration, sadness, anger, just give them space. Don't try to fix them. Don't try to change them. Don't try to force positivity into them. Like, acknowledge them. Like, hey, anxiety, I see you. What are you trying to tell me? It's similar to being a good host to a guest that you don't want. You don't have to like them, but you can still be polite, right? Oh, anxiety, you're here again, huh? Can I get you some tea? No? Okay, well, make yourself comfortable, but you're not staying long, okay? That's step 2. Step 3 is emotional alchemy. This is where the whole work really shines, right? Once you have honored or accepted those lower emotional frequency emotions, you can now authentically access elevated emotions. But now They are real, not forced. You're not performing them. And the difference, oh my God, when you force elevated emotions, they feel hollow. You know what I mean? There's a part of you that's like, dude, this is wrong. They feel temporary. But when you allow them to arise naturally, after honoring your shadow, oh my God, they feel solid. They feel sustainable. And step 4 is integration. Now, listen very carefully, because this step is very important. We can't just have a beautiful meditation and then go back to suppressing our emotions the rest of the day. We have to integrate this emotional authenticity into our daily life. So now, when I'm driving, instead of someone cutting me off in traffic and immediately trying to force a positive emotion, oh, thank you, person that just cut me off, for teaching me patience. You know what I mean? Even just saying it in a fake voice, it's fake. Now I allow myself to feel annoyed in that moment. Okay, my God, that guy just cut me off. That's okay. Then I can naturally shift into something more elevated without feeling fake, right? You just cut me off? All right, whatever, dude. You know what I mean? So try this and see what happens in your life. Because for me, the results of just this shift were immediate and profound. I tell you, within about 2 weeks of implementing this authentic approach, my manifestation started flowing again. But more importantly, this is the best part. I felt like me again. I felt like myself again. And so my emotions became this beautiful, dynamic range instead of this flat, forced positivity. I could feel genuine joy, authentic gratitude, like real love. But I could also feel appropriate anger, right? Healthy sadness, useful anxiety when I'm about to go into a coaching session or when I'm about to create a video, right? It's like going from being an emotional robot to being a jazz musician. Instead of playing the same forced happy song over and over again, you can improvise at that moment of what is actually called for. Like you could read the energy of the room, similar to that. And so this ability to access the full range of human emotions while not being controlled by any of them, wow, you become the conductor of your emotional orchestra instead of being, dragged by one of the instruments by itself. And so the manifestation piece is interesting too, because when my emotions became authentic, my manifestations became more aligned. Instead of trying to force abundance while feeling lack, struggle, scarcity, I could address the scarcity and honor it, and then authentically access abundance. Because what I want you to understand is that your shadow emotions, what we call our, low frequency emotions, they aren't blocking our manifestations. Guess what's blocking them? Suppressing them is. And so when we try to bypass your shadow with forced light, toxic positivity, forced positivity, we create resistance and internal conflict. But when we integrate our shadow, it becomes fuel for authentic elevation. It is like trying to build a house on a foundation you're pretending doesn't exist. You know what I mean? Eventually it's going to collapse. But when you acknowledge and work with your foundation, even the cracked parts, you can build something solid and lasting. And so here's my challenge for you. Stop forcing elevated emotions and start honoring whatever is actually present. It's trying to tell you something. It's been trying to tell you for a while. Remember, your shadow is not your enemy. It is your teacher. Our negative emotions, they are not obstacles to manifestation. They are information that can guide us to authentic alignment. But please remember, the goal isn't to feel good all the time. The goal is to feel real all the time. Because when you are real, you are powerful. And when you are powerful, manifestation becomes effortless. And so, if you want to go deeper with this work or want to be around a supportive community, then come join the Quantum Creators community. We'll be waiting for you with open arms. But all you have to do is remember, you are not broken. You don't need fixing. And your shadow, these negative emotions, they are not something to be ashamed of. It's part of our power. So own it, integrate it, and watch your manifestations become more authentic and effortless than ever before.